Hello, everyone. I have some musings for you today to take you into my mind, into my worlds. And one of the things that I love, but also just fascinates me and really helps me understand the soul, understand humanity, understand why we're here on Earth, what this whole thing is freaking about, is looking at history. I'm just a student of history. It fascinates me. And one of the things that I've been exploring for definitely the past 5 years, maybe the past 10 years, are some of where the seeds originate. And what I call the bad seeds originate, the negativity originates in humanity, and how that is really today what we're seeing, just copying, just patterns repeating from the past. Like a lot of what's happening today isn't just starting right now, say even with my generation or the past 20 years or the past 50 years. It's been happening for a very long time. And I think when we talk in terms of, say, the spiritual world or the soul, it can very much so feel like this pressurized timing that is just right now that we need to change and transform, which it is in the sense that we're at the brink of creation and destruction of our planet and humanity. But in a lot of senses, this stuff has been building and culminating for a very long time. And so I want to explore this with you today, which is very inclusive of the things that we can focus on the daily, like the ways that we can aim our minds and consciousness and our hearts that helps us as souls, but also reorients those negative distortions in humanity so that we don't continue playing them out and perpetuating them. And if you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell button, do the things so that we're connected. And if you haven't already, be sure to go get my free soul embodiment meditation down below so that we can really stay connected, because I've got a lot of incredible things going on behind the scenes that you might not always see here on YouTube. So be sure to go get that link down below. So, where I've been for a long time in my own inner world is that I thought, even at a very early age coming in, that I needed to change humanity and then I needed to really help the earth. And in one sense, that is still actually hasn't changed and is a very true volition in like my heart of hearts. But I am only responsible and I can only do what I can do. And actually, that's a really powerful responsibility. There's actually a lot in just self-responsibility alone. That's plenty. Is just getting to the point where you can be self-responsible. And also within self-responsibility, which is like a super hack that I feel like I've discovered, is that within ourselves, we are connected to our whole lineage. And in that, when we shift within ourselves, it ripples through our past and through the future generations. So it's actually this crazy free will way of having massive rippling effect. And so through that process, I have wanted to really understand where the sour, distorted seed of a lot of my lineage, which led to a lot of the story of colonization, of white man like coming to the Americas, really. I was recently very inspired and thought, that's it, as I've been exploring this concept. When I was watching one of my favorite shows by the writer Taylor Sheridan, and he does a lot of super gritty historical uh, reenactments, really, through his series of the journey west, which my ancestors took. So it's very relevant and brought to life, like where I came from, and also like where negativity came from too. And in one of the lines that he wrote in this recent episode, he was talking about like this. The actress was talking about the 10 Commandments, and she was saying it shouldn't be too difficult to follow. Don't kill, don't lie, don't steal, don't covet. And then she said, and that's the one that will lead you to commit all of the others. Desiring what another man has, his land, his money, his wife, that has led to every atrocity this world has ever seen. And she says, you watch. The human race will covet itself right out of existence. Poignant. Poignant. And because I've been really desiring to understand, I feel like it really rings to me. Might not ring to you, but it really rings to me. And so I want to dive into like this energy of coveting or desiring. And there's nothing wrong with wanting more for yourself and your life and your family. I'm all about that. And I do believe in incredible overflowing abundance. That is absolutely part of my belief and paradigm. And simultaneously, what does abundance and fruitfulness really look like? And this is where it gets actually quite interesting and potentially dicey, because a lot of what we're actually promoted is desirous, that then uh, conjures the coveting, the lust, the greed, like all those energies are things that maybe aren't actually things that we need, or aren't actually fulfilling, or actually aren't abundant, and step on a bunch of other people to get us where we are. So part of my definition of abundance is something that can be holistically experienced, right? That doesn't then harm like other people or other living things. There's a lot of detail in that, but the main point is that there's a radical abundance. And so this is kind of getting into the antidote of that energy. There's a radical abundance that exists for each of us here and now, in presence, in the present moment itself. And the more that we can become present and then include and invite the energies that we would call virtues into our lived experience, we experience presently, with very little and in very simple ways, seemingly simple ways, profundity, ecstasy, transcendence. Some of my most abundantly overflowing experiences are the most rich and actually decadent, are the most simple. And a lot of this that we forget or we get disconnected from because of the stimulation and because of the indoctrination of the things that we're meant to desire, which actually are coming from this place of imbalanced scarcity. So, a couple of examples before I started filming. The storm outside, the thunder and lightning were just going wild. And being in the vitality and the life force, the creative life force of, say, a thunderstorm. I mean, I don't know anything actually really more miraculous in a lot of ways than that. Or like seeing a hummingbird, you know, take the nectar from the flower that I planted for it, or being with a loved one in this really fun or ecstatic moment of laughter, of joy, of passion, right? These are the things, and they seem little, but when we move into the place of gratitude and of appreciation of the present moment, there is so much richness and vast abundance in that space. And yes, we need to make sure that our basic needs are absolutely taken care of, and ideally overflowing, so that there is plenty, so that there is wealth in that way. But I think a lot of what is missing that led to this coveting is a fear of the past that has led to an insatiable lust for the future, and presence isn't a part of it. And so when we're in presence and when we're in virtue, we don't experience a lot of these things that then lead to the detriment of ourselves in many ways and others, of these negative patterns. So another example or way of looking at it uh, comes from a tribe in Colombia that is called the Kogi people. And I was watching their documentary. One of their documentaries was the first time that someone from the West had filmed them. So it was their first like exposure to the Western world. And one of the things that they said that was, again, like highly poignant and almost stirringly accurate was in their vantage, like in their perspective of the world and different peoples on the planet, they talk about how each peoples were really like assigned to a certain territory, and they were meant to caretake those certain territories. So say like white people were in Europe and they were meant to caretake that territory, and then African beautiful black people were in that region and they were meant to caretake that region, right? And so we were all in our specific regions, we had our specific roles laid out. Then one day, back when, particularly we're going to talk about like Western colonization, there were some that decided that what they had wasn't enough. And when I was thinking about it, it was like, well, that wasn't actually the people that were, say, victimized by the others, right? It's like some of the different like racial groups, or different cultures that then like had to flee to America or to these other places for safety. It was before even that, in a sense, the peoples that decided to colonize and decided that what they had wasn't enough were actually the richest, were actually some of the most powerful. Like they already had more than enough. And then that greed, that coveting, that lust, that desire, um just became insatiable, and they left their region and went across the earth to these different places where there were already people taking care of their given landscape in their own way, and each of those peoples had their own thing going on. They weren't perfect in their own way, but we're just like speaking of this specific story to illuminate this idea. And in this story, in this documentary that the Kogi say, they say, we are big brother, you are little brother, and little brother was never meant to cross the ocean, was never meant to come over here. Like, stay where you were meant to stay, where you were supposed to be, and we were meant to stay where we were supposed to be. And it's so simple and so profound to me. And it, again, syncs with this energy of this idea of like the coveting. There's a small percentage that have majority of, like, say, the wealth, money, and resources, and then the vast majority of people have not very much, and that is because of this imbalance. But that imbalance, that original distortion, in a sense, lives in all of us. And so how can we look at that? And this isn't to like have shame around, say, like what our ancestors did, but how can we take self-responsibility for any of those energies that live with us and balance them in a way that returns us to this space of appreciation, of abundance, of balance, of virtue, of alignment, of listening, of remembering like what our sacred role is, what our territory that we're meant to take care of is here and now, wherever we've landed on the planet, and how we can serve in a really harmonious and beautiful way that can counterbalance, that can be the antidote, that can be the medicine for what our ancestors have done, what's been done in the past, and also what we can create here and now in a really powerful and beautiful way. And so there's a lot, like a tremendous amount, in the Western media world that has seeped its tentacles into all over the planet at this point, in different forms, in different ways, in different manifestations, that are steeped in these really seven deadly sins, and they're looked at as very positive, as very good things. And so, how can we be aware of them and not feed them, right? And not feed these energies of, we could call it negativity. And as an example, social media has its pros and cons. And when you look at it, a lot of, say, for instance, Instagram, it leads to every one of the seven deadly sins. It's like desire, lust, greed, envy, like it just like feeds those things. And then what thoughts or beliefs or patterns or desires live in you that may be coming from those lower spaces, that we can alchemize, that we can rise up to be used positively in a way that creates and makes beauty and equality for all people, rather than just say like ourselves in a selfish way, but overflows in this way that's reciprocal, that's beautiful, that's balanced. And for me personally, this is really about coming back to presence. This is really coming back to gratitude, because when we're full and we're whole and we experience, I'm not just like the fake kind, or not, oh, I can't have much, I need to be like humble or something, but where we really do feel full in who we are and what we have, and appreciate it deeply and see everything we have and relish it for what it is, and we come from that place of fullness, we make entirely different decisions for ourselves, for the world, and that is something that makes a big impact. And again, we don't know which way humanity is going to go. It is wild and crazy right now. And because of this unknown, I think that that forges an opportunity in this space of uncertainty to create a resilient certainty within the core and the center of our own beings and souls, to orient to the path, to the timeline, to the energy, to the essence that is true to us, and walk it no matter what ends up happening in the external reality. Like, we have that dignity within ourselves to carry forward in a way that's positive and natural and aligned to us. And so I hope that in many ways, this alleviates pressure, of that it's all on you, it's all on us, it's all on, this generation here and now, when these things have been sown so sadly for so long. I was looking so much into regenerative uh, farming, say like in the hill country of Texas, and lo and behold, the cattle that were set on the land to graze, as well as the trees that were planted there, I mean, hundreds of years ago, that have then spread everywhere, completely drain all the water from the landscape. And that was put in place hundreds of years ago. This stuff has been happening for a very long time. That doesn't make it okay, but that means that there's a lot that we're working with. And so I hope that that alleviates some of the pressure of disproportionate responsibility in that sense, but also illuminates some of those pathways that negativity and distortion has continued to just play out, accumulate, repeat generationally, so that we can learn from it, so that we can understand and we can learn from the past. We can remain more in the present, and from that space of abundant presence, create a future that is truly more aligned with the antidotal medicines that perpetuate positivity of life. And that starts again with the virtue, with appreciation, with gratitude. These qualities and these visceral experiences cannot be understated. They're profoundly powerful. And I think sometimes we forget, because the other side of things seems so powerful. But in reality, this other piece that is light, that manifests in different ways, is profound. And you know that when you're in that state, it is incredible, and it does permeate time space in a way that has very powerful impact. So that's what I got for you today. The musings of my mind and my exploration, and what my desire to understand, and to clean up the past, to clean up what is mine, and also to move forward in a very empowered way, in a way that is very awake, eyes wide open, listening to not continue these negative patterns, but move forward in a very positive way for myself, for my family, for those in my reality, and thus for the earth. So thank you so much for watching. Please comment below. Let me know what you think down below. This is a little bit of a different video format, because I just was sharing rather than having like key points. But I feel like in the world of AI coming in on these videos on YouTube, we just need some talk. Like, we just need some real talk here. And it feels so good for me to watch. And I appreciate the creators that are doing that. And so I hope that this gave you that same uh, aliveness, that same reality of realness that we're all seeking right now as we continue to return to more of ourselves. So thanks so much for watching. Again, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell button, do all the things, and be sure to get my soul embodiment meditation down below so that we're connected on email, and I will see you next time.